thought it was a pretty wild year too, and I thought it was the ultimate kind of comeback year, like you said, from a year where the whole sport is essentially shut down, all of life is essentially shut down, and I think that Canelo's activity is a big part of that. Um, Aside from who he's fighting and what he's doing, I just think that it's really pretty incredible that like the top pound for pound guy in 2021 is pretty insistent on fighting like 4 times a year in a year where it wasn't easy to put fights together. You know what I mean?
I mean, look, everything's a little bit easier if you're Canelo Alvarez. So, like, people say, oh, yeah, it's not easy. When you make as much money as him, all of a sudden, weird doors open. They're like, wait, the money man wants to fight 4 times? Sure. Like, we will cater to your needs. Where do we need to hold this? It's weird how when you make money, all of a sudden, people are nicer.
Yeah, but how many
Play
guys that make money like that do fight 4 times a year? You know what I mean?
No, and that's the exceptional. I think what was great to me was obviously Canelo's the fighter of the year because he went after historical greatness. And how many guys at the top of the sport go, I want to be an undisputed world champion? He didn't seek matchups, he sought champions. And after doing that, now we're kind of left with, well, where does he go next? Because the criticism would be, oh, you're finding these sexy matchups, but they might not be the ones we want. Well, this year he gave us what we wanted. He fought Saunders, he fought Plant, he gave us a brutal knockout highlight reel with Yildirim. He gave us one of the Smith brothers that does Smith brother things. You know, they get to the top and then they lose to the good guys. He did all that stuff and then proved that he was the best guy.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think is like his most logical path moving forward? Because it seems like he's willing to fight like from 154 to cruiserweight. And you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think is his best path from now?
I mean, it's like I think that Beterbiev is in the plans because Beterbiev looked really off to me. Like it looks like the train is coming to an end with Beterbiev, like with Marcus Brown. He just looks slower. His reflexes aren't the same. He looks less dangerous than he might have a couple of years ago. And that's like possibly one of the 5 best light heavyweights ever, if we sit and think about it, because light heavyweight's been such a historically weak division. It's
Yeah.
like if I was a manager, I would only sign light heavyweights because if you sign 5 light heavyweights, you probably will get a world champion because it's like as long as you have someone who can get to the finals in a national tournament consistently, it's like the depth because most of the light heavyweight division is super middleweights that just get a little bit bigger and they're like, this division's not that good. I'll just fight at light heavyweight. And then they become the best guy in the division. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the theme of it. Roy Jones, Bernard, Andre Ward, like those are 3 off the top of my head that were outstanding in that division. None of them started there. So what Canelo for me, it's like Beterbiev is probably in the fall, right? And then it's just like, who does he want to do? So I think that obviously this cruiserweight champion is interesting, you know. I shouldn't say interesting, but I mean that's another historical thing. I think it also opens up the door for a bridgerweight fight. I do think though, if Canelo goes to cruiser, he's not coming back down. We're getting catchweight city. We're getting catchweights, but I do think I've always thought Canelo is going to win a heavyweight world title. I've always thought that he wants to end his career with a heavyweight world title because that would put him in the realm of possibly being the greatest fighter ever. And I
And
think
it's
that means a
fucking
lot to
bulky.
him. Yeah. So, I mean, I think
He's
that
a big kid.
and imagine if they did Andy Ruiz versus Canelo Alvarez in 4 or 5 years for the heavyweight world title that's vacant. Like that's not an unfathomable fight to happen. Put it in like Mexico City, put it in Vegas. I mean, you're looking at a fight that could do a lot of pay-per-view buys that would have a lot of people interested. And
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, that fight has always just felt like free money.
Ruiz and fucking Canelo. I'd never thought of that before, but that's like a I mean, you're right. It would be fucking enormous. People would
Because
go,
to me, that's the biggest fight you can make in boxing is Andy Ruiz versus Canelo because it's like it's 2 fan bases. They train together currently. Who knows if Andy will stay there or whatever, because Andy has this history of dancing around with trainers. So, I mean, if he stays with him, I guess the fight won't happen. But I feel like Andy's always going to be a guy that's with people for 2, 3 camps. Then he's going to go to the next one. It's like he's been with every great trainer, and he's still
Yeah.
like, I want to see what this trainer does now, you know? So I think that that's one of the big fights. I think that he's going to come back, maybe get the cruiserweight title. If he doesn't do that, then I think the more interesting thing to me is what network do you think he's on? Because I think that there's a good
Right.
chance he's on ESPN.
I also can't think of a fighter that I have no idea what weight they're going to fight at and no idea what channel they're going to fight on.
Well, think about the greatness of Canelo, where you can't just think of one weight class to think of opponents for him. So you have to be like, okay, where is the best fight for him rather than who in his division is an interesting fight?